Hello, my name is Callie-Anne Farron. I work for EASPD, which is the European Association for Service Providers for Persons with Disabilities, which is a European NGO and a membership organisation based in Brussels. I am the e-learning officer, which means I coordinate our online learning initiatives and knowledge and innovation, and I am the coordinator, or ESPD is the coordinator of the Inclusive Path project.
Hi, my name is Manuel Souza. I am a Policy and Project Officer at Associação Amigos. Associação Amigos is an organization that supports persons with intellectual disabilities in Spain, in Galicia, in the region of Galicia, in the rural area, in a village called Boiro. And I am at the moment managing the project of Inclusive Paths on behalf of Associação Amigos, by also contributing and providing our rural and regional perspective to the project, which is particularly relevant to us as it comes to provide solutions to many of the issues suffered by persons with intellectual disabilities in their secondary stage or in their secondary education, transitioning to the post-secondary education.
Perfect. Yeah. So just to go back a little bit to give a summary of the project overall. Inclusive Paths, the long name is Inclusive Pathways from Secondary to Post-Secondary Education. So what that means is that the project aims to make it easier for children and young people with disabilities to continue on to tertiary level education, be that vocational education, college, traditional third level education, etc. And the reason that EASPD specifically applied for the project as coordinator is really down to our members. So Amicus is a member of EASPD, and the way in which EASPD works more generally is that we gather the needs from our members kind of on the ground, and then we support that with the European level advocacy work. So this kind of project was developed because a gap was recognised, or we saw a gap, and we saw that there were supports available in second level education and also supports available in third level education. But we saw that sometimes these supports either were not sufficient, or that educators and other staff in both kind of levels did not feel adequately able to support students. And also we saw that sometimes these systems do not link up properly together. So maybe there's supports at one level and support at another, but that transition can be difficult for people because they're moving between two levels that aren't necessarily that connected. So that's kind of the need we saw or we heard from our members, and that is kind of the background of why we applied for the project. But I guess as a member, you could say a bit more about the situation.
Completely, but I think that you very well described the issues. Here, on our level, it's even more acute because the resources are quite scarce. We do not have many specialized schools, and even the standard schools, many times they are not prepared to deal with this, either because their human resources are not sufficiently trained. But it's not only a question of the schools and their professionals, it's also a problem of the persons with intellectual disabilities themselves, that they feel a bit lost, and their families as well, they feel lost. There is, talking to many of them, there's a question that is continuously repeated, which is what should we do next? Okay, what to do next? And I think that the project really comes to provide more answers to this question. How to do the transition, right, from their secondary education to other. I mean, it's not only, it could be vocational education training, of course, which in many cases it is. We do have already some solutions, and the solutions that we have, for instance, in Amicus, they are very much grounded on the two pillars of the economic region of Galicia, which is the fishing and forest and agriculture activities. And so many of the vocational education trainings that we have, they derive towards these two sectors. We actually have a team that we are of vocational education training that is specifically for gardening, but they are doing much more than this. They are not only supporting, terrains, but they are also doing, restoration, land restoration in several areas of Galicia. And we hope that this program, this project that we are doing, can also to improve the projects that are already in place and provide, more answers and more possibilities to what we are doing.
Yeah, I think that when you said that you touched on something I was about to say in terms of how we gather the needs, and the first step in the project, or one of the first things we did in the project, was conduct focus groups, and they included the 3 kind of main beneficiaries or target audiences that we wanted to reach through the project. So that would be persons with disabilities themselves, family members, parents and supporters, and then also professionals working in schools. And I guess the reason we started with that is that we wanted a good grounding of what the actual needs were and what the kind of gaps that those people saw themselves, and maybe identifying, maybe it's a little bit early, but identifying solutions or potential solutions that they saw. So yeah, did you want to say some things about what you found in the Spanish focus groups?
I saw a lot of not confusion, but perhaps frustration.
Yeah.
Right, from teachers and also professionals working with secondary and vocational education training. They were quite aware of their problems, but sometimes the solutions, it was not so easy to identify. They were capable of seeing, the lack of resources, the lack of preparation. Also the parents also, they had a lot to say about experienced the issue. Especially again, it's not frustration, but they are real concern about what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And they were also telling about their difficulties in accessing resources, especially again in the rural area, when sometimes the school is in a village that is or in a city that is 30 or 40 kilometers where they are living. And the practical day is quite a challenge, because you have the parents, they work, and so it's sometimes it's difficult to access the resources needed to address the problem.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of information that we've gathered both from the Spanish partners and also the 3 other partners in Cyprus, in Austria and in Belgium is kind of the basis for the rest of what we're doing with the project. So we gather that information and we're currently applying it to the kind of resources we're developing in the project. So we're working on a series of workshops for educators that will help them provide them with the information they need to help support students both in secondary and tertiary. We're also developing a number of written resources, so there'll be a handbook to support educators. And on the side of maybe the parents and the persons with disabilities themselves, we're also developing a video game. And that video game is designed for the person with disabilities to play with their supporter if necessary. And it kind of guides them through a number of case studies that have specific challenges related to transition and gives them options in terms of how they would face that challenge. And I guess one of the interesting things about the project is because we're working with 4 very different contexts in terms of the countries, the information in the game had to be kind of suitable and accessible to everyone. So it's not the case that we're talking about very specific legislation or options in Galicia, for example, or the system in Belgium for Dutch speakers specifically. It's more kind of like a personal development aim where we hope that the player or the learner can see themselves in the challenges of the characters we've created and then apply that to their own situation.
Precisely, and I think it's very important what you just said. I mean, the context is really relevant because the options that are going to be chosen will be chosen under a specific geographic, linguistic, cultural, economic, environment and context. And I really think that having four options, 4 possibilities, actually provides a bigger landscape, a bigger possibilities for the persons to test and try to game.
Yeah, for sure. There's a range of characters that are included, so hopefully you can make it relatable to many different contexts. I guess, in terms of how people can find out more about the project or continue or to see what we're doing, There's already a web page developed for the project, and we're currently awaiting the publication of some of our resources. So the focus groups that I mentioned, a report on them is anticipated in the next few months. The handbook that I mentioned will also be available by the end of the project. And that's the same with the video game. So they're all anticipated by the end of 2027, but they'll be coming out kind of gradually until then. So there's a web page available and people can check it out there if they want to access them. You can also follow the project on all the social media platforms of the partners, where we kind of post regular updates of how we're getting on and how people can find out what we're doing.
Indeed.